In the mud of 1916, time was a fragile, broken thing. A soldier's pocket watch, useless and shattered. Reaching for a watch in battle was a death sentence. There had to be a better, faster way to see the time. In London, a young visionary named Hans Wilsdorf saw this chaos not as a problem, but as an opportunity. He imagined a timepiece not for the pocket, but for the wrist. Small, precise, and unbreakable. But in the early 1900s, wristwatches were seen as delicate jewelry, exclusively for women. His peers thought him foolish. How could such a small device possibly be accurate or strong? Accuracy was the domain of large, carefully protected pocket watches, not some fragile wristlet. The core challenge was clear: how to forge a legend of precision from the chaos of a trench. Wilsdorf needed a partner, one with a mastery of small, accurate watch movements. He founded in the Eigler Company, a Swiss firm renowned for its tiny, reliable mechanisms. Together, they began a quest for a wristwatch that could survive anything, even the front lines. But a precise movement was only the first piece of an impossible puzzle. The real war was against the elements. This was Wilsdorf's great gamble, risking his entire reputation on an idea everyone called a novelty. The reward? To forever change how the world kept time. The risk? Absolute financial and social ruin. First, he needed a name. Something short, memorable, and powerful in any language. He said a good spirit whispered it in his ear on a London bus. Rolex. With a name, the first Rolex wristwatches for men appeared. They were immediately put to the test. British officers, buying them privately, took them to the trenches. These were the first field tests. Reports came back. The watches were precise, yes, but the glass would crack and the crown would leak. Dust and moisture were the invisible enemies. They would infiltrate the case and destroy the delicate movement inside. Wilsdorf knew his watch needed armor. A case that was completely hermetically sealed against the world. His obsession became sealing the two weakest points: the bezel that held the glass and the winding crown. Other watchmakers had tried and failed. They believed a truly waterproof watch was simply impossible. How could you create a seal that allowed the crown to be pulled out and turned for winding? Wilsdorf was not a watchmaker himself, but a master of vision. He pushed his partners relentlessly for a solution. The future of his company and the very concept of the modern watch hung in the balance. He needed a breakthrough. An idea so revolutionary it would seal the watch like a submarine hatch. And that is when he heard about a patent filed by two inventors for a screw-down winding crown. This patent was the key. Wilsdorf acquired it immediately. Now the real work could begin. His engineers refined the design. A crown that screwed down onto the case tube, just like a hatch. They combined this with a screw-down bezel and a solid screw-down caseback. A triple lock system. He called it the Oyster case, because it could live underwater, sealed perfectly against the elements. In 1926, the first Rolex Oyster was born. But the world was still skeptical of his claims. Wilsdorf knew he needed more than just a patent. He needed dramatic, undeniable proof. His first idea was simple. He displayed the Rolex Oyster in aquarium windows, submerged among the fish. It was clever marketing, but it wasn't enough. He needed a human trial, a champion. In 1927, he read about a young English swimmer named Mercedes Gleitze, a true pioneer. She was the first British woman to swim the English Channel. The perfect test for his waterproof watch. But after her swim, a rival falsely claimed to have done it faster, casting doubt on her achievement. To clear her name, she announced she would swim it again. A vindication swim. Wilsdorf saw his moment. A test of human endurance and a test for his machine. He gave her a Rolex Oyster, asking her to wear it on a ribbon around her neck during the swim. On October 21, 1927, she entered the freezing water. The world was watching her, and on a small boat nearby, Hans Wilsdorf was watching his watch. The cold was brutal. Hour after hour, she swam against the harsh tide and icy currents. The Rolex around her neck was submerged for more than 10 hours in the frigid saltwater. She didn't complete the swim that day. The cold became too much just miles from the English coast, but her endurance had already proven her point. She was hailed as a hero for her bravery. Wilsdorf anxiously recovered the watch. Had his great gamble paid off? Or had it failed? He opened the case. Inside, the movement was perfectly dry and ticking accurately. It had worked! The Rolex Oyster was truly, undeniably waterproof. A triumph of engineering. Wilsdorf didn't just celebrate. He took out a full-page ad on the front of London's Daily Mail. It was the birth of the Rolex testimony, using real heroes to prove the watch's quality. From that day on, the wristwatch was no longer just jewelry. It was a tool. It became a symbol for adventurers, pioneers, and anyone who pushed the limits of human endeavor. But Wilsdorf's innovation didn't stop there. He saw another inconvenience for the watch owner. Daily winding required unscrewing the crown, which could compromise the waterproof seals over time. He dreamt of a watch that could wind itself. A perpetual motion machine on the wrist. In 1931, his team patented the world's first self-winding mechanism with a free rotor. The Perpetual. This rotor, powered by gravity and motion, kept the mainspring constantly wound. No winding needed. The Oyster case made the watch waterproof. The Perpetual rotor made it worry-proof. These two breakthroughs, born from a desire for battlefield reliability, defined the modern wristwatch. Rolex now had an unassailable reputation for toughness and precision. A legend had been forged. Pilots crossing the Atlantic wore them. Explorers climbing Everest relied on them. Even in the depths of the ocean, divers trusted the Oyster case to protect their vital lifeline. The core design, born in the trenches, proved adaptable to any extreme environment on Earth. Hans Wilsdorf's great gamble had not only paid off, it had created an entirely new market. The story was no longer just about telling time. It was about surviving it. So the grand design was revealed. Not just a watch, but a system of relentless testing and storytelling. Wilsdorf understood that people didn't just buy a product. They bought into a legend of achievement. This marketing genius transformed Rolex from a tool into a status symbol. A crown for every achievement. The very thing born from mud and necessity became the ultimate symbol of luxury and success. But with this success came a new challenge. The brand became more about status than survival. The echo of the trench grew faint. The stories of endurance were replaced by tales of investment. Yet the core innovation remains. A simple, brilliant idea that solved a life-or-death problem. It reminds us that the greatest leaps in technology often come from the most desperate of needs, and that a single person's vision, against all odds, can truly change the world. Hans Wilsdorf's legacy is not just in the watches we see today, but in the spirit of tireless innovation. From a muddy trench to the peak of luxury, every stone truly does carry a story. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, subscribe and share to help us uncover more stories.